Mark Attwood here, the Mark Attwood Show, Adventures of Cosmic Suit. How's it going? Slow down, Mark. No, I can't. Isn't it amazing? Quite amazing. We're in a post-Epstein world right now. Epstein's just a distraction. Shut up. It's not. It's interesting. It's turned... X is basically the new 4chan. It's just everybody's digging and everybody's showing all the things that they're finding, which are surprising even to me, who's known most of this stuff for quite a very long time. But people are getting, you know, my friend came around the other day and he said, you were right. You've been talking about this for years. I said, yeah, I know. It's like, big wake up, big time, exciting. I'm not so depressed about it as I was on Saturday, because I was a little bit, you know, it's finally out. But at the same time, oh my God, I feel sorry for everybody that's starting to see all this. It's not nice to see a former prince on top of a teenage girl on the front page of the Daily Mail. It's not, you know, it's sad. I mean, I grew up in England in the 70s, and I remember the Silver Jubilee, and the whole village came out and they were full of pride and full of love. I was a bit mistrustworthy. In fact, I remember saying to my friend's mum, I sat there on his sofa and I said, I hope the Queen dies. And she went, you can't say that. Don't wish death on anybody. I said, if it's the Queen, she's horrible. I knew it. I was, what was I, 8 years old? Yeah. And then I got the Queen's Commission, which I was really proud of. Very proud of. And then I met Prince Philip. And then it all went downhill from there. And here we are 40 years later. Anyway, X has turned into 4chan, basically. And we've now got lots of people digging. I was going to show you an interesting video, but this is take 2 of this video. Just want to show you this. Now, avert your eyes if you don't want to see something not very nice. Now, I don't know if this picture I'm about to show you is real, because obviously we live in the world of AI, but it wouldn't surprise me. And what the picture represents is true anyway. But this is a picture from Concerned Citizen showing a post saying this guy is about to become the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak. Is that really him? I don't know. I'm not sure that's his face, actually. But that's the kind of thing that's going around. And you, as an awakening or an awakened soul, must practice that big lesson that we've all been going through for the last X number of years, which is discernment. Question everything, including this, which, as you know, regular viewers know, is what I say to my kids when I drop them off at school. Have a nice day in prison. Question everything, including this. And then some people go, well, why do you still send them to school? Because it's their choice. They are fully armed in their knowledge, because I'm their dad, and they choose to go there because they want to be with their friends. And it's part of their own spiritual journey as well. I mean, the teachers put one of my sons down terribly. And he comes home and he tells me, and I go, well, how do you feel about that? And he goes, well, fuck him. And I'm like, yeah, good. So I'm developing using school as a spiritual tool. But school is not really a good place for children. And there's a man who wrote a book about this, who I've had on my show a few times, who's does amazing work. I'm just going to show you the book, because every one of you watching this should get this book. If not for you, for your friends. I actually lent this to one of my friends last week. School, No Place for Children, A Wake-Up Call by David Adelman. Why does school demoralize and delusion so many pupils, undermining and eroding their self-belief, natural playfulness and individuality? Were you aware that this may be the result of a deliberate global policy, with schooling a tool of oppression for the many and a breeding ground of power for the elite few? Why are school teachers quitting the profession in droves, and many not even completing their professional training? Did you know that school is not even compulsory? You see, this is one of the things people get in a tizzy about, the same as they're getting a tizzy about debt collectors coming to the door. They have conned you into thinking that you're supposed to pay them, and the school has conned you into thinking it's compulsory, with all the fines and nonsense. When I was last living in the UK, which was 2014, the school was trying to fine me for taking my kids out of school to take them on a trip. And I had to go for a meeting with the headmistress, who I'd previously had an argument with about organic eggs, believe it or not. That's another story. But I went in and I said, well, you can fine me all you like. I don't have to pay it. And furthermore, I'd say me taking the kids to Morocco for 2 weeks is a better education than anything you're giving them. So I'll see you later. But anyway, let's get the author of this amazing book on. Hi, David. How you doing?
Hi, Mark. I'm doing great, thank you. All things considered, because this is the year where the shit really hits the fan. But people like you and I, that level of consciousness, we've prepared ourselves for it, and so it's really, and we are like soldiers of spirit. We're built for this, and and I also, I know you've just given me a bit of a shout out, but I'd like to shout out you, because sometimes when I'm feeling like no one's thinking the same thoughts that I am, I go on your channel and I do your morning campers, your morning, and it's just so reassuring to hear a voice of sanity and common sense. So thank you to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I only do those because people keep telling me to and saying how much it calms them down. So I feel like if that's a role, I'm very, very happy to play that role, because there is something every single day to comment on, and it is always a case of just don't be afraid. We're fine. We're eternal spirits. What are we worried about? Just getting everybody back to that state, because a lot of the news out there will change people's frequency, and that's deliberately so. And we've got to hold that high frequency, because that's how we've got this far so far. Wouldn't you agree?
Totally. And one of the first things that I say to people when I either orally or in writing is to remind them there's a golden gem of a biblical quote, which is from Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, which is, "My children shall perish for lack of knowledge." And so the golden path towards sanity and thriving in an insane world is to power yourself up, tool yourself up with knowledge and the tools and the knowledge to use the tools. And that's what people like you and me are all about. I mean, I wear two hats. Yes, I'm the author on education, but I'm also the people's lawyer, which explains the TPL. People saying, what's TPL? It's the people's lawyer. So, and when I wrote the book, School No Place for Children, the people's lawyer was just a little twinkle in my eye. It was going to be another 5 or 6 years became that. And it was thanks to CV19 that I became that and reframed myself, because I was a lawyer a long time ago, and it was COVID that led me to being the lawyer again, because I could see how unaware people were of their rights. They were caught off guard. Yeah, and they'd had a warning with 9/11, but it didn't make much of a difference. And I held my hand up. 9/11 gave me a little wake-up call, but I just cracked on with my own life.
Yeah.
But then COVID was too big of a wake-up call to ignore. And so some of us were inspired to just dig deeper and do more and become more involved in what's going on the planet, rather than just make ourselves comfortable as individuals.
Yeah, well, you guys watching, I'll leave a link to the People's Lawyer website I just showed you, and also David's books and any other links he sends me, because David's an amazing communicator, very funny, very intelligent, great writer. Basically, I'd marry him if I was gay and wasn't already with somebody else.
And I'd marry you if I was gay, Mark. So let's put that one to bed. No pun intended.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? We've had to step up to the plate. I mean, you've done all that. I've set up a publishing company, a healing center. I've published books, millions of videos, well, thousands of videos. And I was only saying this morning that, it's pretty amazing to have a purpose. I mean, the other thing I was laughing about, and I don't know what you think about this, is like, when this is all over, I'm going to be like that Japanese soldier on the island. 20 years after, and he didn't know the war was over, and he's just shooting at everything.
Now what?
Now what?
Yeah. Well, in our little preamble, I mentioned that I play table tennis, so I'm gearing up to lead a life. Yes, having won the war or helped humanity come through. On the other side, we'll be growing food, we'll be playing cards, we'll be singing, we'll be dancing, we'll be playing sports, we'll be leading the life of the gods, because we're not meant to be slaves. We're meant to be divine creatures that co-create whatever we fancy. And we'll have the heart-centeredness to co-create something that works for everyone. And it won't even be, I don't think we'll even need laws, to be quite honest. We won't need anything. We'll just need ourselves.
Well, all we need is universal laws, and they're obvious. We're kind of bought, and we've got them innately. We know what the difference between right and wrong is, and then we get.
Yeah.
That's why they put billions into mind control and to infiltrating the minds of kids, so that we grow up with this bullshit in our heads and dye our hair blue and start screaming at ridiculous things. But the reason that we're chatting again, just so everybody knows, David and I first chatted about 3 or 4 years ago, and then David came and did a talk at my event at the Manchester Monastery in 2023, which was brilliant. And then we haven't spoken since, actually, but it was because a friend of mine came round and was crapping himself because he got a letter off social services because a kid had not been in school enough. And I just said, well, hang on, David, and I went, it's funny because I went to the bookshelf, and it usually takes me an hour to find anything. I went straight to your book, gave it to him, and said, go and read that, because it's incredibly empowering. And what I wanted to ask you is that it's been 5 years since you published that, hasn't it?
Longer than that, actually,
Longer,
Mark.
yeah.
It was written 2015 to 2017 and published as a paperback. It came out as an ebook in 2015, but it was only about half of what it became as a paperback. The first official publishing date is round about now, February 2018. So that's 8 years. Yeah.
Jesus, that's 8 years. And
I know.
Have you seen the effect? I know you've done talks everywhere, and the book's obviously been out and you've been online. What's been the effect of that?
Well, most people, whatever you think you've done for them, or however they think you've helped them, they don't tend to gush over it. They just crack on, and I don't blame them. We're all the same. We're all like that. We just crack on. But I have been approached when I do my talks. I've been approached by people saying, "Read your book, inspired me. I've pulled my boy or girl or both out of school. Thank you so much." And you'll see people that go on the actual web, the Amazon page. They'll see testimonials to that effect. And even if people have not taken their boy or girl out of school, they've maybe because it wasn't their boy or girl, it was the grandparents. I've reached an age now where that my demographic is the grandparents. It's sad but true. And so very often, if there hasn't been a direct successful outcome, a win, as it were, then at least the grandparents are empowered to sort of bypass their own children and gain access to their grandchildren and point them in the right direction. But I think it's been read by many, many thousands, probably only been bought by a few hundred. No, I'm only kidding. It's been bought by quite a few thousand. But just the way you were saying that you lent it to someone, a lot of people have read it and lent it. And those people who borrow it rather than buy it, well, I'm not going to get a testimonial off them. But I would say in a short answer to the question, it has had a profound effect. It's very hard to quantify, though.
No, I totally get that. It's the same with healing. As soon as somebody's healed, they've forgotten all about it.
Yeah.
It's like the pain's gone, thank you, gone, but get on with their life. But it's in the consciousness field. And I remember when I first came across it, it was very dear to my heart because I'd been inspired. I mean, I just talked about the headmistress. That was in Cheadle in Stockport, Cheshire, about 12 years ago now. And at that point, I'd already been through, I had 5 kids under the age of 5. I'd already... one thing that really triggered me in a very positive way was Sir Ken Robinson's talk, Do Schools Kill Creativity? The one that the most watched TED talk in history, I think. He's no longer with us. And I actually quoted him to the headmistress when she pulled me in. I said, have you ever read Sir Ken Robinson's? She said, never heard of him. I said, you're a headmistress and you've never heard of the most influential educator on the planet. She just kicked me out of the office. And there's that other guy, I know you and me have talked about him before. His name escapes me.
John Taylor Gatto.
That's it. And then you came along with that, and I'd read Unschooling and all of this, and I set up 2 schools in Morocco. I'm telling this for the listeners. two schools, one of which has now got 200 pupils in Marrakesh. They deviated. They went to curriculum, but originally it was set up as a kind of an unschooling project for my kids. So I'm very happy that my kids did actually have 3.5 years of basically homeschooling, being outside all the time, following their passions. It was very difficult, though, in terms of when they got a bit older and they wanted to socialize with other kids. That's why my kids are still going. Two of my kids are still going to school here, because that is extremely important. And what I've noticed is that the teenage kids around 15 now, who were 10 when COVID hit, are percentage-wise seem to be far more awake than the adults are. From what I'm just anecdotally, I don't know whether you experienced the same kind of thing. I mean, I met an 8-year-old this morning, was wide awake. It was unbelievable. Came into the healing center. He was just unbelievable. I was gobsmacked. And that's a very positive thing.
It is. And yes, I've been, I used to go to, I used to be a regular at Hope Sussex, which is near Hastings on the south coast in England. And it was obvious that more and more boys and girls are free of the programming. They're not exactly sure who they are or where they are, but you can just see that in a positive sense, that there's a blank slate. And when they're kept away from school, no one can put toxic things onto that blank slate. And yes, I would say in the last couple of years, I've noticed on my tours that although the number of teenagers coming to the talks is negligible, you do hear on the grapevine that, oh yes, well, I've got a grandchild or I've got a daughter or a son, and they don't take any nonsense. And it's very refreshing to hear. So there is a new generation. Mary Rodwell has got a book out called New Human. Well, it's been out for a long time, actually, New Humans. And she says that one of the types of new human, so this is the new human that's coming through that's upgraded. Their DNA is good to go as a fully fledged human. They can't be programmed. They're too individuated. That can provide pose problems, because if they're, they can be stroppy, they can be willful. But that stroppiness and that willfulness, I now say in my talks, is something to celebrate, because no teacher can get past that barrier, And I'll give you an example. Somebody recently told me that her daughter, who I can't remember the age, 10, 12, 14, I can't remember. She was recently asked. Now she goes to school, and she's one of these stroppy, willful kids, and she goes to school, and the teacher says to her, now, Rachel, or what, I don't even know what her name was. I use that name for convenience. Could you get me that book from the back of the classroom, please? So it was some kind of command or order to do something. And Rachel just goes, right, just hold on one second, sir. But I'm here as a volunteer, and you're giving me an order to do something. You're not going to pay me for it. You're not going to thank me for it. You're paid to be here. You're paid to be here. So with all due respect, why don't you do it? Because you're paid to do it and I'm not. Now that's actually made me soften my approach to schooling, because if we can send boys and girls into the classroom to do that level of sabotage, then that serves the same purpose as pulling them out in the first place, because pulling them out in effect defunds and deplatforms the school. But sending them in, if they've got that level of something, I don't even know what word to use, that level of gumption, awareness, self-confidence, they can go in and do a hatchet job. And by the way, just for apparently the teacher, just for a split second, just shook his head, or some kind of look came over his face of recognition that actually this girl is right. Why am I giving her a command when she's here as a volunteer, and probably not even a volunteer? She's probably here under duress.
Yeah.
So we can give the boys and girls tools that helps, but some of them already know the nature of the game. They already know. They've come through knowing that if they don't stand up for themselves, they'll just be played like a fiddle. and they're ready to stand up for themselves. So all the work that I do is mainly aimed at people who are not quite as powerful as that. So I'm giving them the extra level of knowledge and power so that they can, you know, if they so choose, stand up for themselves. And this is where your request for assistance came in, because you want us to have a look at how we can help people who maybe haven't got ready-made empowerment.
Well, that was the thing, because the stress was the letter. I mean, I did a meme about 15 years ago, put it out on, you know, in the early days, saying the world is run on red ink and yellow paint, because the red ink in the school teaches us to be afraid. You get a letter saying you owe money in red ink, you shit yourself, you pay it, and that's how the system works. The yellow paint, obviously yellow lines. We used to park on the yellow lines in Cheshire all the time, and then get the kids to take the parking ticket on, stick it on a fence, and women would walk past tutting at us and going, "Red, terrible, terrible." And I'd be like, "Oh, whatever." You know, that was when I was sort of first waking up to the fact that it's just based on nonsense. So the reason I called you is because I was like, shit, I've not actually been faced with this for a few years. Who do I know who knows more than me? David, right? I'll go and get that and have a look at that. What the key thing there that well, as it turned out, he stood in his power. He had the meeting with them, stood in his power, and they backed off. It was quite interesting, actually, just to report back. But people watching this who are like, how is it not compulsory? How is it not? Because I thought it was. I mean, have they not entered, by entering a child into a state education system, are you not in a contract then to abide by their rules?
Well, the answer is, to a certain degree you are, but the thing is that who actually drafted that contract, and did they give you full disclosure?
Yeah.
So what we're looking at, we're not looking really at a bilateral contract. We're looking at what's known as a service agreement. And that service agreement is a very lopsided. It's not, I bet they didn't sign it. I bet only you signed it as a parent. But anyway, that's another day's work.
Well, we can't even say, I mean, that's one thing that stuck with me from the first time we spoke, the parent thing. Every single time I've had a form, I scrubbed the parent guardian thing out and I put father.
Yeah.
Parent. You rent your child.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you're right to pull me up on that. Yeah. So we all get lazy in our language. And one of the things I was discussing with someone recently is one of the things that we are going to have to do until you know, the kingdom of heaven arrives across the whole planet, is restructure our language so that we don't fall into any residuary booby traps that are set, and including reinforce our own power using language. So just take a brief ride through the linguistic thing. Whenever we say I am, we need to recognize that what we're about to do is manifest whatever. So if you say I am tired, well, that means you're a tired being. So we need to start using, and in many languages, they don't say that they are thirsty or hungry or fed up or pissed off. They say that they feel, or that they have hunger, they have thirst, and they have. Yeah, so back to the parent-child thing. This, my children shall perish for lack of knowledge. It's one of the things that we need to know about are the linguistic tricks, which we know as legalese. English is not just legalese trickery, it's linguistic trickery. It's a very treacherous language. And yes, head teachers have been known to say, we own your children. Well, if you don't know that you're the father or mother of offspring, and you've signed up for them contractually to go into loco parentis, you know, as the government representative, and to be the putative parent while the boy or girl is in school, then to some extent they do own that child. They don't own the offspring. But if you don't know who you are, then they can legitimately say they own the child, which means that if there's a nasal spray coming, you know, if the NHS are rolling out nasal sprays for flu, then they can in effect give themselves permission or ignore your withdrawal of permission to put them through the clinic and have them nasal sprayed. So this this is something that we have to be very careful about. So in legal land, bad things can happen and they are still legal. In lawful land, as long as you're aware of the difference, you can prevent those bad things happening. And if you really don't trust the school, then the obvious remedy is to pull your offspring and pull them out and keep them at home and take advantage of the freedom that we have, even in legal land, to home educate, because it's called education otherwise, which is mentioned in Section 7 of the Education Act 1996. But yeah, so it's understandable that that when we've been through the school experience, that we come away with certain residual trauma-based fears of authority. And also, we were never taught how law works, how money works, how anything, how health works, how society works, nothing. We've been absolutely, we've had our minds emptied and just filled with compliance, obedience, and fear of authority. So when people come to me asking for support on their journey, you know, through the educational minefield, I have to make sure that I gauge who they actually are and what angle they're coming from, and so it's all contextual. If you didn't succeed at school, if you were labelled as dyslexic or as a troublemaker, that gives you an advantage because you probably spent enough time out of the classroom or ignoring the teacher to make sure that you develop your own mind and had your own thoughts. So those mothers and fathers are much easier to deal with. But just a quick anecdote to give you an idea what we're faced with. I went to something called Carry On Camping about a couple of years ago. It was
Sid.
Hey?
Sid.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, a matron. So it was a good camp, but it was very interesting to observe. There was most of the mums and dads were hardcore, you know, like manual workers, probably just certainly not using their brain and not wearing a white collar to work. These were cleaners, electricians, plumbers, dinner ladies. They were hardcore, you know, real people.
Yeah.
But their children were the new humans.
Yeah.
And in other words, they were all shiny, didn't need to ask grown-ups for anything, just got on with their own stuff. And I'm observing this thinking, I'm trying to add 2 and 2 here, thinking, hang on a minute, there's no lawyers, dentists, doctors, there's no one here these new humans are being born to what used to be called, you know, the manual laborers, the working class. And then I had an aha moment. I get it. Right. So the new humans who need to be protected from the middle classes and all their fake values are born into the working class where they will be protected. And so, and that made sense. And that's why it's only the nervous middle classes that come to me, because they are not hardcore. They are new to dissidence. They are new to free thinking. And that's who, it's that demographic that I've created my resources for, because, you know, I've got this counter notice, which I sent to you, which you can send off to social services, affectionately known as the SS. You can send this counter notice to the SS, and it acts as a kind of placebo, in the sense that you've put them on notice that you know the law and you know your rights.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a hardcore working class manual laborer, you'll probably just rip everything up that they ever send you and keep your door shut. So that's fine. You won't need me for that. Yeah. So really, my resource pack is for people who, for some reason, have not developed the individual resilience and the sort of FU attitude. And so it gives them something to lean on while they are going through their own growing process. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in that way, you're a bridge, which is very, very important at this time. Did you, before we go further into that, did you see this video a few weeks ago from Lawrence Fox?
talking about, you know, that lovely reform candidate.
He's talking. I won't play it all. Did you see that video?
I must confess, I do watch a lot of social media, but I didn't know.
Oh, this one stood out for me because he was talking about the fact that his son was at school and they vaccinated him behind his back, and he got home and he found out, and he went online, and I did a video about it, and you know, I should have put him in touch with you. How's that possible?
Well, there's lots I could say to this, actually.
I want to keep this on YouTube. I want to keep this one on YouTube, so just bear that in mind when you answer that.
Okay, you know, fair enough. Word. Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. Okay, so we are at war, and there are elements that, let's putting it mildly, do not have humanity's best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. And while a few years back, they targeted the elderly, they are now switching their attention to the young ones, the kids. And so if a responsible grown-up like Lawrence Fox says, please don't do anything, no medical procedures for my boy or girl, please. Well, the narrative will ignore that request or order or command, using perhaps the legalese excuse that, yes, you're under contract and whatever we say goes between the hours of 9 and 4 o'clock. And so, and if the boy or girl is registered as a child, then that child is in effect property of the government, and the government has made an executive decision to carry out a vaccination program. And before you know it, the child is being vaccinated. And so the response, prevention is always better than cure. We've had parents using that word in inverted commas, because it's easier to keep saying that than mums and dads, but I'll do my best. All right, mothers and fathers who have given schools clear instructions not to carry out any medical procedures on their boy or girl. But some schools, not all schools, although it may soon be all schools, ignore that that instruction and do it anyway. And that's the case of Lawrence Fox. Well, the horse, in that case, the horse has bolted, and then we just have to go over to the medical side for medical remedy and cleansing protocols. If someone wants to be absolutely 100% guaranteed that that won't happen, well, there's only one way. Yeah. In 2026, then boy or girl kept at home and have a proper education where they can follow you around. If there are two parents, you know, I've done it again, but you know what I mean. If there's a mum and a dad or two caregivers, then one can earn the income and the other can be the way shower and have that boy or girl accompany them to various events, meet various people, learn as they go along. If that mum or dad has skills, they can share their skills. And then in their quiet moments, they can go online and do some learning that's more academic and more theoretical. But what my book demonstrates, particularly in chapter 12, which is the one on home education, is that real education only takes place when you live a life. In other words, if you're in an enclosed environment, that by definition cannot be an education because you're not having experiences. We learn by experience. And the only experience you have within the four walls of the classroom is to sit still, which is absolutely diabolical for boys, to comply with orders that don't make sense, to learn stuff that doesn't make sense and is politically charged. It has political agendas involved in it, you know, like transgender agenda and all kinds of strange political agendas. So you know, it's not, I'm not saying that mums and dads have all the answers, but the thing is that when you're with your mum and dad, they will encourage you to ask all the right questions. And that is not something that you will be able to do in a classroom. So it's very much a case of know that if you do want an education, if you do want to learn skills, and if you do want, and if you're a mum or dad now, if you do want to protect your boy or girl, as well as encourage them to grow, the classroom is not the place. And then it's a question of getting past the cognitive dissonance in which we've all confused schooling and education. We've conflated the two ideas. Schooling, I'm kind of repeating myself just because it's worth doing. Schooling is not the same as education. Schooling is, when someone says about someone else that, you know, like, for example, Trump schooled Zelensky. You know, it's a form of humiliation. So in other words, they're saying that Zelensky was humiliated by Trump when he said that he was schooled by Trump.
Yeah.
So when you go to school, you're going for a humiliation and for a degradation. Mm-hmm. When you're being educated, you're being allowed to grow, because education is pulling out stuff, talents, gifts, passions, hobbies that are innate in that being. So at school, you have the inversion of that process. And if you even try to do something exciting or say something interesting, it will be stamped out. That's the current narrative, and it's been that way since the curriculum was inserted in the 1980s and 1990s. You know, before that, we had free thinking teachers that would even encourage you to be yourself. Well, and that's the other. Yeah. So and science is now showing that the highest frequency is the frequency of authenticity. So when you go to school, let's leave aside the medical threats and the political threats. When you go to school, the last person you can be is you. But when you stay at home, your parents, mums and dads, keep doing it, right? Your mum and dad will allow you to be you in pretty much all cases, unless they themselves have a dysfunctionality. But in pretty much all cases at home, you can be you, and that alone will help you to grow in a positive way. Just being yourself.
100%. And if you guys, just before we go into resources, if you guys watching this have never read this book, there's another book I highly recommend to anybody. It's The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America by Charlotte Isabet, who was, I believe she was in the education department under Reagan. And I read that about, I don't know, 20 years ago, something like that. It's, once you get your head around that, it's a no-brainer. That's why you have to train you. If your kids are going to go to school, you've got to arm them. This is what I'm trying to do and have done quite successfully with 3 so far and 2 to go.
Well, some mums and dads have realized what's going on, and for some reason they do send their boys and girls to school, but they tell me that they debrief them, they de-school them every single day, the way I think you were hinting that you did.
Yeah. My kids are definitely de-schooled, even though they're going there. And it is part of their spiritual journey, I believe, and I'm quite happy with the way that's working for them so far. But it is fraught with fears, because these are the same people that brought in the LGBTQ stuff and forced people to have that down their throats. A lot of the kids around here turned against that, which was interesting. They also, the same place that left the windows wide open during COVID and made them wear masks and wouldn't let them put coats on, especially if they weren't regular. I mean, it's abuse. I know I've actually said it to their faces. This is child abuse. And they just go, it's not my pay grade. And it's extraordinary. But in terms of resources that you alluded to earlier, where's the best place for people to get that? The People's Lawyer website.
Yeah, the People's Lawyer, which is the peopleslawyeruk.com, has got a link to the book, both on Amazon and private purchase. I can send you the book if you don't want to do a business with Amazon. It's got a link to my courses, and on these courses, I teach people how to stand in their power, stand in their sovereignty. So I've got extensive study course for people who have got the time and the patience to learn slowly. And I've got, and that's timeless. So you hop on, and it's ongoing, and it includes ongoing live Q&As. Then for people who are more in a hurry or don't want to spend too much time studying and want a quick fix, if that's even the right phrase, there's an intensive course that I got going about a year ago, which and the extensive used to be an intensive, but it just got too big. The intensive course, I've got one starting next Tuesday, the 10th of February. And that is 6 lessons of an hour and a half with audios to audios, recordings of the presentations. Fewer materials than on the extensive, but certainly enough. All the key materials are included, including how to bat off social services, how to bat off the council and HMRC and speeding notices and all the things that the tyrannical corporations are firing at us to unsettle us, to keep us from our own center, so that we're distracted. You know, we've got, you know, we're unnerved. Everyone's unnerved, and everyone's unsettled, and everyone's, you know, and so if you've got the tools, then you can bat them off. So it's a bit like, you know, it's like, I'm going to put it, it's like they're hurling arrows at you. And all this course does is give you a shield, so that you know the arrows are just going to land on a piece of metal. They're not going to land on you.
Am I on the right page here, David?
Right. Enrollment being accepted for, yes, that's the intensive course. Yeah.
Oh, that starts tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I forgot to update it. It's been delayed 1 week.
Oh, okay, great. And they just go to this page. I'll leave a link to this page, guys.
Yeah.
David's
And there's also you can download an enrollment info pack for both courses and for consultation. So for people who want more immediate, urgent advice, they can book a consultation. For people who want to upgrade their knowledge but not invest a penny because maybe they don't have a penny, they can just watch one of the 70-odd videos I've got on the Start Here page. Yeah, start there, that's it. There's also the resources page where you can go and download stuff. And there's also downloads. There's something called Globalese Narrative, Mark, which is, I appreciate this opportunity to show what the website's got. Now, on that Globalese Narrative, you'll see a lexicon that I've created to help get clarity on what the globalists mean when they use these deceptive words.
Yeah, well, I was talking about this with the kids the other day, actually.
Good. And I've also started to put in a bank of questions called sowing seeds of, questions to help people awaken to what's going on, where I'm up to about 62 questions, and it'll soon get to 100, where people can use those questions to awaken their friends and relatives who have some potential to wake up, but they're struggling. So if that's the lexicon that you're looking at now, but the other one is sowing seeds.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of these words. It's great. AI for good means external control by AI.
Yeah.
Air freshener. This is for you. Air freshener, a chemical that is thought to transmit pathogen and toxins. Good stuff.
Yeah.
What was the other one you wanted me to look at?
Yeah. On the same page, Mark, the questions to sow seeds.
Let's get that right page up.
And I've got a workshop coming up in Leek on Saturday, the 7th of February.
That's Leek in Staffordshire. If you're watching this in America, that's in England. In
Staffordshire, northwest England. And we're going to use a few of these questions so that people can have get a glimpse of how to, because we can't say anything to the unawakened. We can't, their minds are closed to it, but we can ask them questions and they'll, Brian Gerrish on UK Column was dog walking 2 years ago, and he asked someone a question. 2 years later, the same dog walker said, that question you asked me 2 years ago, it's made me really think.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't force them to, the questions is the only way, 100%.
Yeah. There's one of my favorites is, number 2, Palestinians are Semites. They are unquestionably Arabic Semites.
Yeah.
Zionism is unquestionably anti-Palestinian. So how can anti-Zionism be anti-Semitic?
I've always wanted to know the answer to that question. I think I did 10 years ago, but what is the answer to that question? Why did they call it anti-Semitic when they knew that?
Well, it's gaslighting. It can't be anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist. Because Zionism is already in and of itself anti-Semitic, anti-Semite. So most Zionists are Caucasian anyway. So it's a nonsense. So there is no answer to the question. It's just gaslighting.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? Because if people get wrapped up in this nonsense and they don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah. So these two resources will help people cope with the gaslighting if they're awakened or awakening, and it will help them have coherent conversations with people that want to know more.
Well, I think everybody should print this off and stick it in their back pocket. There's quite a lot of pages, actually. How much? There's loads of them. These are good. These are good.
Yeah, they are good. You know, they absolutely are good. Oh, here's another one. How was scarlet fever eradicated when there's never been a scarlet fever vaccine? and the same is true of cholera as well.
Well, I went. Yeah, I've got to be careful with some of these words because I do.
So you can say to someone, oh, it wasn't quack scenes. Let's call them, because we're on YouTube. It wasn't quack scenes. It was plumbing and sanitation, and they just go, you're off your rocker. Yeah. But if you turn that into a question like, how was scarlet fever eradicated, or how was cholera eradicated, then they go, well, it was vaccines. Well, show me the proof.
I like that one. Why is the Statue of Liberty not placed on American soil, but in the waters off the New York coast?
There you go.
Very good. And you know what? It annoys me that all my favorite stars are, you know, satanic pedos, because Woody Allen had a great joke about the Statue of Liberty.
What was that?
I'm tempted. No, I know it. Oh. I just don't know whether I want to do it. It's like this. It's like the last time I was inside a woman was when I was visiting the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, right. Okay.
But that was back in the day when I thought he was funny. So why is it? No, let's answer that one, because I like that one. I think that's a good one for everybody. There's a lot of people watching this who won't know that. Why is the Statue of Liberty on that island?
Okay, so liberty is something that you are allowed when you're on a ship. So it's placed in the water to show that we are governed by the laws of commerce, the laws of the sea. We are treated as vessels, not living beings. And so when the Americans were granted liberty, the British, because America never really secured its independence, it was granted liberty, not freedom. So they were granted liberty, and the controlling presence was still the City of London and all the national corporations, including the Corporation of France, and certainly not the nation of, not the French nation, not the English nation. No, it wasn't a national thing. It was a corporate thing. And so, you know, these things this is the grand apocalypse. We're really, you know, they said symbolism would be their downfall, and this is one of the symbols that will be their downfall.
Do you think, just on that, do you think the Statue of Liberty is one of the 34 satanic buildings that's going to get blown up?
Well, in all probability, yes. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. When true freedom arrives, and it's coming, then yes, all these symbols of restriction and degradation and falsification will be obliterated. They have to be. They have to be.
Well, look, I think we've given 50 minutes to give people a good overview of your brilliant work, and you guys watching. I'll leave all the links below the video. In the last 10 minutes, because we haven't spoken properly for a few years, how do you think it's all going? What are you know, how do you think the Epstein stuff, what's going on there? What's your view on where we're at?
Well, I think we're on the precipice of something, many things, very, very huge. There are psychics predicting cataclysms off the coast of on the coast of California. That could be the San Andreas fault line. Cataclysms like you wouldn't believe, like swallowing up half of California. So that's coming from multiple sources, and that could be any day. That's, somebody even said specifically 18th, 19th of February. So that there are going to be shock waves, if that's true, shock waves going around the planet. So that's ecological or ecosystem shock waves. There's banking shock waves. Silver just crashed, having spiked. It's crashed. It'll probably spike again. The dollar is being phased out. It's going to be replaced soon. So everything is looking. It's looking like or the world will change very fast, very quickly. So we will wake up one day very soon, and nothing will be as it was. And so the sensible people, which usually means people who know what's going on, are looking inside of themselves for inspiration and comfort, knowing that they're here for a purpose, and that purpose is being played out now. And those who have not been following anything other than mainstream narratives are going to get the shock of their lives. They're going to go into panic mode, and they will come to us, and it won't be about saying, well, told you so. That'll be the last thought on our minds. It will be about saying, how can we help? We are prepared. We've got food. You haven't got food. Well, come and eat. Come round and eat. We've got water. You haven't got water. We've got power. We've got generators. We've got candles. We've got cash. You know, I know so many people that just have almost forgotten that cash exists. And we will be the anchors. We will be anchoring them into the next level, the next transitional phase, before the final denouement, as it were, where sanity is finally restored. So there's going to be, chaos for quite a while, and within the chaos there'll be pockets of sanity and pockets of total insanity, zombie holocausts, and people who haven't eaten for weeks starting to eat human flesh. Possibly anything is possible. And this is all part of the great. There's a couple of videos doing the rounds, and they're called I think they're near-death experience videos. And these little kids are dying and going into the next level. They do come back, but both of them, there's a boy and a girl, and they both meet Jesus. And Jesus says that this, or a figure who they assume to be Jesus. And the idea is that what's going on is being called the great sifting. And the sifting involves shaking the planet so that those who are not built on solid or with solid foundation, divine source connected, they crumble. They literally crumble, and will probably die, to be quite honest. And then you've got those who have got some faith, but don't know what's going on. They'll be the ones that are clinging on to us, who have faith and do know what's going on, and will hold the space, hold the light, hold the fort while the shaking takes place. And for those who are ready for it, it will be more exciting than traumatizing. But there'll be trauma, for all concerned, really. But it will be anticipated trauma, to be quite honest. So as long as you're not too shocked, then the trauma will be manageable. And that's what's, it's maybe when the dust settles, we'll be just bartering, or maybe using a bit of precious metal. I'm personally very skeptical. I can't bring myself to use crypto. Every time I go on a crypto site, something odd happens, So I would say precious metal in small denominations, 1/10 ounce of silver, which is 20 pence in old currency, may see you through. Otherwise, use your skills, use your networks, rapid response teams we've got set up in various groups, emergency communications, walkie-talkies. Don't rely on anything that the grid offers, because as they found out in Portugal, everything can go down in the blink of an eye.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I mean, generally you're optimistic, but this great sifting is precisely what it is. There's no question about that. And I think that's why, even though I saw the Epstein stuff, I made a video the other day and I said it at the beginning that I imagined I'd be dancing on the tables when this stuff started becoming more public. But actually, I just suddenly felt the grief that is going to be felt by all those people that have ignored it all this time. And it hit me. And I was like, oh, shit. They've got to go through this.
Well, okay. There's two things that's occurred to my mind. First of all, an analogy. And the analogy is that if you take in some kind of toxin, what your body often does is put you in crisis. So you go into febrile mode, fever. And and this has happened to me many, 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 many times. I go so feverish that I end up with the shakes.
Yeah.
So the planet, if you put that at a macro level, the planet is going into crisis fever mode. So it's going to shake, and there will be tornadoes, some false, some created falsely, but some natural events, because the planet is shaking off the negativity. It's going into crisis. So yes, and that is on the surface bad news because it hurts and damage is done. Buildings fall down, people die, but it's for a higher purpose. It's to cleanse. And then the other thing I'd like to mention, which I'm glad you've raised this, Mark, because I was going to call it the elephant in the room. You know, when you're giving people positive messages of hope, they can come, but you're trying to be real. So in other words, you're pointing out all the negativity that actually does take place. Some people who are what I call the toxic positives or the spiritual bypassers will say, oh, don't do that. You're just going to bring the vibration down. And I say to those people, no, that's not how it works. These people are delusional. That literally facing your own demons and facing the issues that are taking place, that's how you pull through. You don't turn your back on it. You turn towards it and say, this was meant to be, and I was meant to be here while it's taking place, and I'm just going to keep on walking towards the light. But you don't get to the light through the light. You only get to the light through the dark.
I've been saying this for years. I'm glad you said that, because I've had this argument going on for 15 years at least, when I was told to stop going on about SRA on Facebook by somebody. And I was like, but we have to go through it. There's no other, you can't go around it. You can't go under it. We have to go through it. There's just no other way around it.
There's no other way. And in fact, although it's something that you don't know, and why should you know? Because I didn't tell you, is I'm working finally working on the sequel to School No Place for Children, which is going to be called, the working title is Schooling and Other Crimes Against Humanity.
Oh, I thought you were going to call it University is No Place for Kids.
Well, it's
no place for teenagers. No, that's a powerful title. Go on, fill us in.
Well, it's way more hard hitting because it's going, and because in this book I put my people's lawyer hat on and I go through forensically the crimes that take place in the school classroom and on the school grounds. I hinted at some of them in the first book, but I didn't call it out. I'm calling it out in this book, and it's going to be very, very hard hitting. There is a race against time, because if I don't get my act together, the cataclysms are all going to take place and it's all going to become immaterial. So,
well, can you go back to 1974 and Mr. Lansbury carried me down the schoolyard by my ear with my feet touching the floor for about 20 yards. I still remember the pain of that. That's got to be abuse, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we've got the physical abuse, the assault, the battery. We've got something called menticide, which is not technically a crime, but it's a moral crime of killing the human spirit. We've got all kinds of fraud, including telling the mother and father one thing and then doing another, and ultimately that's for profit. Because if you can fool the mums and dads, they will keep sending their boy or girl to school, which means more sponsorship from the banks. So it's corporate crimes. And this is the bad news for mums and dads. Once you're put on notice of what crimes are taking place in the school, and you still insist on sending your boy or girl to school, guess what that makes you?
Complicit.
An accomplice under the Accessories and Abettors Act 1868, I think it is. Section 8, 1868, accessories and aiders and Accessories and Abettors Act. I never remember the full title, but and so this is where I'm saying, okay, yes, we know how bad schooling is, but don't forget that as a mum or as a dad or both, there's some level of responsibility that we have to accept, and that's, you know, and the difference between me now and me back then is I've now got the confidence to call it out and to in my talk to say, for the mums and dads or grandparents in the audience, you know, I'm going to say something that you don't want to hear, but I have to say it, that now that you know what you know, you've got to think twice before being complicit in crimes against humanity, crimes against your offspring. So hopefully that level of brutality, it's a brutal message, will make an even bigger difference to than the first book did.
And when are you planning to have that out, David?
Well, I've got a publisher because he did say he thought I'd already written it, but I hadn't. So he's waiting patiently. I'm hoping. Well, I was hoping to get it out by the spring. If I get my act together, maybe early summer, late spring, April, May, June. Yeah.
Well, a lot's going to happen between now and then.
I know. In the meantime, I've got an invite to New York to a truther event called the Awakening Summit. So hopefully I'll at least have a draft version by then. That's the end of April.
You'll meet some of my mates there.
Yeah. Yes, I will. In fact,
Joe and Scott will be there.
Yes.
Truth Stream.
Yeah. And also the former military guy, whose name I can't recall, the young guy who you met on your tour of America, I think.
Oh, Derek. Derek Johnson.
Derek Johnson is going to be a speaker. Yes.
He's not that young.
Right. Compared to me, everyone's young now, Mark.
He is very tall and handsome and kind of fresh faced. I'll give him that. He's a great guy.
Yeah, okay.
He's very funny as well.
Oh, great. And Kerry Cassidy is one of the speakers. So, you know, and they're adding speakers. I was going to say as we speak, but you know, all the time. Yeah. So I hope. So in a nutshell, please, people, if you want, it's all about future proofing. The future is glorious, but only for those people who are prepared to wade through the shit and rescue one or two. Obviously, only those who reach out for rescue, including rescuing yourself and keeping yourself in a good position to keep your head above the water. And, you know, because there's a massive shaking, sifting going on, and everything will be fine, but there's no way around this. There's no way around it. It has to happen.
And it is happening. And
it is. Yeah.
And it is a privilege to be here. And it's a privilege to know people like you are doing such amazing work. You guys go to the links. Thank you, David, for being on. Great to catch up with you. And I hope to meet you again in person one day.
Oh, you will. Yeah, you will. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
We'll have a game of table tennis.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
The gauntlet is down.
Yeah, I'll knock you off the table, mate.
You probably will. I've not played it in years, but I used to love it. Anyway, it'll be fun. Anyway, God bless you. Thank you very much, David. Take care. See you, everybody.